Hey guys, MoneyMan300 back for some more videos, and this time we are moving on with our tips and tricks around builds, and this is going to be all about matching up the car type to the track. And what I want to do is go through every single track in the game and talk about what type of car that it matches up with. And first of all, let's review the car types. I talked about them in the build video, in my last build video, but let's go over them real quick. So I look at about 5-ish types of cars. There's always exceptions to that, but in general, you've got momentum cars, and those are cars that generally have good speed and good grip, but don't necessarily need acceleration. They do well in high-speed turns. They do well on hills and things like that. So then you've got speed cars, and they generally lean more towards the top end, but they're not pure top end. They have a little bit of grip, but they do well in the longer tracks like a Bathurst, like Road America, Indy GP, some of those. So you got speed, then you got grip, and grip, that's your lighter. Acceleration and grip is the key with that, not top end. So differentiate from momentum in that acceleration is a key factor in a grip car, whereas in a momentum car, acceleration is not as important. So those are differentiation. Sometimes there's a lot of crossover between, and you'll see that in the tracks. Crossover between your grip car and your momentum car could be good. So a grip car a lot of times can be good on short momentum tracks, which we'll see a lot of the time. So that's momentum, speed, grip. Then you got oval cars, and there's really two oval cars. Like Daytona and Indy are different, and different cars work on them. It's not to say that you can't use the same car on both and be somewhat competitive, but if you're trying to set leaderboard times, it's very, very, very specific cars, and they're different cars for each of those, and you can see that by going out and take a look at the leaderboards. Then we have super speed cars, or I call them super speed. I'm sure other people have different terms. That's just a straight top speed build for really Le Mans old, and there's a couple other tracks that I'll hit when we're out there, but it's pure top end built car, and I think that's all of them. So is that 5? So we got speed, we got momentum, speed, grip, oval, super speed. So that's 5. It could be 6 if you count the oval too. And then there's some cars that are just all arounders that they're tweeners that do everything or do a few things well, type of car. So let's get right into it now with each of these. First off, the Alps tracks. The Alps tracks are what I call, especially these first two, Alps Festival and Alps Stadtplatz, are pure momentum tracks, and a very specific type of momentum car usually works on these, and you'll usually see it dominated by a specific car or one or two, as you can see in this one. The Honda S2000 and the Mercedes 190e. So like two cars if you want to have a chance of getting into the top 100. There's like maybe one other car in there, and it's always like that in just about every class. It's a very, very specific car. Other cars work well there. Other momentum cars work there. You can scroll down the leaderboard to see what they are in each of the classes. But that 190e has just always been a very, very good Alps track. It has really good high end and good grip cornering in higher speed corners. Same thing with that S2000. That's something that's also very good. S2000 is good at a lot of stuff. It's going to be a grip car, a speed car, a momentum car. S2000 do just about everything with a couple different build variations. Alps Stadtplatz is very similar to Festival, as I mentioned. Club's a little different. Club, you can start to get your grip cars in here. So you're going to see, when I go in here and I look at this outside of the S2000, which does everything well, the 190Es kind of go away because the top end is not important at all. The cornering ability is very, very important. So you're going to see the WRX get in there, the BRZ, the Lancia. This is B class, by the way. I just picked a class and came in here to look at it. You see other cars start to get in there. Short track, what I call short track momentum, they work on like Prague short. They work on, there's several of them out there, and I'll call those out. So it's a short track momentum car, and grip cars will work on that as well. These are roughly the same as their counterparts for the most part, so I'm not going to go into detail on the reverses, but you can use the same car most of the time. Bathurst is a speed track, so this is going to get your more speed cars. You're going to see a lot of muscle cars in these lower classes be in here and do real well. So that's a speed track. You can get away with with an all-arounder on this as well, and make up a bunch of time in that top part of the track, and hopefully stay ahead of people in that straightaway. So you do want some level of grip to be able to manage that top, and that's why it's not super speed. It's speed. So you're looking for a car with a good top end, but still some grip. Brands Hatch. This one's always an interesting one. Different cars do well here. It mostly lends itself to a grip car with good acceleration. Doesn't have to be great, but it's not momentum. Like the 190E is not going to do very well here. The S2000 will probably do okay. It does okay everywhere. Grip and Branch House Indy definitely starts. This is that short track momentum or grip car. Is what your Branch Hats Indy does well with. The Catalunya, these two Catalunya tracks are very similar. They are grip tracks, acceleration. What you want on these tracks is cars that accelerate. So your primary goal on these is accelerate, so that's your grip cars. A little bit more top end required on this one over Cat National, but pretty much usually the same car. Catalunya School, that's again pure acceleration. You don't need it all. You just need grippy all day in this on this one. So you're going for big handling numbers. On this one, you can see the Lotus Elise and the Beetle. Small cars do real well. It's like a little go-kart track, pretty much. Circuit of the America GP and West, they're a little bit different. Circuit of the America GP leans towards a speed track. So it's very similar in nature to like Bathurst, in my opinion. So you'll see the muscle cars and stuff in there. You can do well with other cars, just like in Bathurst, because there is some pretty big turns and stuff in here, and acceleration is also important here. Now, when we get to Circuit of the America West, it starts to get a little bit more of a tweener track, and you'll see other cars get in here. Not quite as much speed, not total grip. So because you don't have quite the straightaway in there. And then we get over to Coda East, which is a smaller track, but a little bit wider. And generally, it's kind of all over the board. I've seen, like I said, you saw the Jeep in here and the 90 Camaro. So this is kind of an all-arounder track. You kind of use what you feel comfortable with. Some of those tracks just don't fit into a specific category, and I think this is one of them. The Daytona, these are speed. All these Daytona, the Daytona 24 hours, the infield, those are speed, borderline, super, or a car that works on this track will work here as well. You'll see like the Nissan GTR 71 and the 250 Cali. Those are both really good oval tracks, and they work good here. Speed works well, so you see the Cougars and the other ones in there. But the Daytona oval cars start to creep in there a little bit, just because you're using so much of the oval on these tracks. This is specific Daytona oval. You look here, like the Ferrari 250 Cali. That's it. There's one car in there. An 02 Corvette snuck in there. Look at that. So a few other cars start to sneak in there, the Mercury Cougar and some others, but for the most part, and I'm assuming nighttime is the same. Yeah, pretty much. So very, very specific when it gets to the oval cars here. Next up, Hockenheimring. That is going to be mostly a grip-ish track. You can get away with a little bit of speed here, but that's mostly, I would tend to run grip. But something that has a better top end than a little tiny grip car. You want some decent top end for that long-ish straights in there. And then even more grip once you get over to this one. You'll see, CRX and the Beetle, the GSR 99. You'll see the Alfa Romeo GTA, lots of grip cars. So they're both grip-ish tracks. This you can get away with some speed on. Hockenheim National is definitely a grip track. Hockenheim Short is also even more so grip. You see the Beetles and the really smaller go-kart-ish type cars to get in there. Indy GP, so all the GP tracks are going to be speed. And it's not like a Daytona, the cars that work on the Daytona Oval tend to work on the Daytona Infield and 24-hour. That's not necessarily the same here. The Mercedes 190E dominates this thing. You see some 250 Calis get in there, and then as you get further down, you start to see some other cars work their way in there. But these are classic speed tracks that the Indy GP GP Classic, GP Alt, and GP muscle cars generally work well. The GP and GP Alt, you want a little bit more grip. You can get away with a little more grip and a little less speed. This one's going to require a pretty powerful, pretty speed top end type of car. Not super speed, but sometimes you'll have different levels. Sometimes you might have a speed car that has a little more speed over handling, and a speed car that has just a touch more handling. So if you get really specific with your builds, that's what you can do there. On to Sonoma. Sonoma is an interesting track that seems very class specific. Like in this class, this lends itself to the really short track grip car. So you want a car that you're constantly turning in this. So you want a car that you can just kind of maintain all the way through. It does need some acceleration. There are some turns in there that kind of get in there. So it's, I don't know. I would lean towards grip on this one. Definitely over speed. So it's closer to a grip track. And you can see by the nature of the cars that are on, and these two tracks are very similar, and the same cars are going to work on both of these. And then we have the Sonoma Short, gets a little shorter. Cars really don't change. Same cars work on all three of those. Laguna Seca is a classic grip track, in my opinion. You're going to see the grip cars, like the VW Beetle is kind of the dominant grip car on B class. So anywhere you see that on the leaderboard in these, it's grip cars work well. Now we're on to a different type of car on Le Mans La Sarthe, and there's also Le Mans Classic. Those are, and I don't want to go into the rain one. Those are your super speed, just the highest of high-end cars you can get the most speed out of is what you want here. No grip, all speed. Same thing with Le Mans Classic, no grip, all top end. So you're going for top speed builds on those tracks. Now, on the flip side, the Le Mans Bugatti, it's kind of a tweener track. You can run, you'll see the Beetle do well right next to the Buick Regal GNX. This is one, and a GT86, which is typically a little bit more of a momentum car. So this is one that there's a lot of cars that work well on this. I like a car that's got some acceleration, though. And I would favor acceleration over top end a little bit on this. For getting out of these tight turns, there's a few of them, and they're important coming onto straightaways. So I would favor something with some acceleration. So I would say a kind of it's almost, I would call it an all-arounder, but I would favor your cars that have the highest acceleration on this track. We talked about Le Mans Classic. Lime Rock, interesting courses here. These are generally, they're a little bit more specialized, but they are in the small track momentum or grip style. You don't like, acceleration isn't huge on these. It's helpful. It's more in the short track momentum. And they're all about the same. Every one of these are just different variations where they add some turns in one spot and another, and then the last one where they put them in both. So Long Beach Full goes a lot of different ways as well, but in my opinion tends to favor cars with a little bit more speed and a lot of acceleration. So acceleration coming out of these turns and getting a good start onto that kind of long bending straightaway and the other straightaway is a big deal in this one. So I would favor speed acceleration cars in this. So generally speed class, and that's why you'll see the muscle cars doing pretty well in these. It's not to say that the grip cars won't. You can manage pretty well with the grip car in this too. But your passing opportunities in this are on the straightaways, so you want to be able to get past people on the straightaways. Really hard to pass in the turns on that track. Next up, Long Beach East. This is gonna be close, but start to lean more towards the grip side. Long Beach West is pure, it's pure grip. So that's your Elise, your Beetle, that really short track grippy car. The Monzas, all three of the Monzas lean towards the super speed, high end, get your horsepower, get your top speed. All three of them favor cars that are top end. Pretty much use the same cars that you got on Le Mans Classic. So you got to be able to manage a couple of turns on the track, but for the most part, you just need top end here. All right, on to Nürb. So Nürb, every one of these, whatever car you can get around the track, speed, grip, momentum, doesn't matter. You pick, right? It's just something you can get around here. The fastest car that you can drive and still keep it on the track. That's all there is to Nürb. This doesn't fall into any category. Now, Nürb GP, though, So that goes for Nordscliff and Nürburgring. But GP though is a more grip based track, or it's a grip and acceleration. So you do want something with really good acceleration. So that's why you don't see the Beetle and the Elise as much on these, because they don't quite have the acceleration. They do well on a short track momentum based. You do want the acceleration, so you will see some muscle cars that'll do well here, the 73 and those. But for the most part, it's a little bit all over. A different Elise that probably has better acceleration, but you like having some acceleration and a little bit of top end here. Prague is a momentum track, so a little bit more in the classic momentum area, but not like, as far over as the 190E. So you'll see a lot of good cars that maintain good top end and can take turns at high speeds. A little bit lighter cars tend to do fairly well here. And acceleration isn't as important, and even more so on Prague Short. This is more your short track momentum. A little bit longer than it's not like a cat school or anything like that. So similar cars are going to work on these two though, and the same with the reverse versions of them. On to Rio. Rio is another interesting one. This is one of those when you want a car that handles well and you can just get around the track. I lean towards grip on this. Because there are a lot of opportunities to pass in long sweeping turns, or if you can hold a line on a turn, you can get by somebody while they slide out. There's not super long straightaways. You always seem to be turning in some form or fashion. So I lean towards grip, but you can get away with some like a grip car that has a little bit more speed than your typical. Then you're going to get each one of these gets more grip worthy, right? As you get into all these, so Rio Coast, you'll start to see S2000s, and although there's a BMW M1, there's some other speed type cars in here. So this one's a little wider. That's probably why. Again, these don't fit perfectly into any other ones, so you can get by with multiple different cars here until you get to this. These little things here. Then now you need to get your short track momentum cars out. Your Beetle, if you're running that, your Lotus Elise, your Jeep, those will work well on that because it's short track momentum. Next up, we talked about the Rios, and the reverses are really the same. Road America. I love the makeup of the Road America courses because they hit just about every class of car. Road America standard is pretty much a speed track. Right? You want your speed car that has still a little bit of grip, but you want the speed car. The turns are very manageable in there, and you have a very long straightaway in there. Road America East is a super speed track. You want that top end car, the same car you're using on Le Mans Classic. Road America West is a grip track, so you're going to want to get to your grip cars. You want acceleration here, grip and acceleration. And then Road America Alt is the same as Road America. That's a speed track. It just got a little extra turn in there you're going to have to navigate. And Road America West Alt is also a grip track. So we got 3 different types of tracks in there. So your Wests are grip, your standards are speed, and Road America East is super speed. Next up, let's go to Road Atlanta. This is a speed track. Pretty much, for me, the same cars I use on Road America. Got the long straightaway in there. Got to navigate a couple of turns in there, but tends to favor cars with more speed, and acceleration is good there as well. But most of your speed cars have good acceleration. It's the momentum cars that aren't quite as good with the acceleration. Road Atlanta Club. You're going to see this generally favors the short track momentum car or your grip car. Either one of those will work good on Road Atlanta Club. Sebring. I like speed cars on the Sebrings. You can get away with some all-arounders and grip, but on all of these, I like speed. This one can start to get a little bit more grippy, but I tend to lean towards my speed builds on all of the Sebring tracks. Silverstones are interesting. It's a really tweener stuff. You'll see lots of different. So you see the MX-5 next to the 78 Mustang. So you can run grip or speed on this, or momentum, in my opinion. This one doesn't fit into anything, so it's kind of whatever you're comfortable with. There's wide, good areas to pass. You can pass in turns on this. If you can hold lines, you can pass. You can pass on straightaways. And the same can be said for, in my opinion, international as well. One of these I thought, and national, I think they're all pretty much the same if I look at it here. Yeah, you can pretty much run whatever cars you want on these. Enough speed that you want. This one you want to get enough speed you can make some passes in the straightaway, but for the most part, same basic types of cars. Spa is a little bit of a tweener that leads more towards the speed area. So you see the cars that do well on all tracks, like the S2000s come up here, but you'll see a 90 Camaro, a GT86, which is generally known as more of a momentum car, an Integra, same way. That's momentum / grip. 97 Civic, depending on how you build it, could be a lot of different things. So you want something with decent speed. So I would say you want something either a good momentum car, or like a Prague car that you use in Prague, or a speed car that you would use on Road America. One of those two will work well on that. And the Top Gears, I don't know quite as much about these, but I know that this track, these generally favor grip. This is also very, very grip based because it's short, less than a mile track. Grip, Top Gear West. Top Gear Loop, though, you get to this one, this one almost goes to speed and even into super speed. So they're mostly grip tracks and favor the grip and maybe momentum until you get to these loops. So these two loop tracks, these things, I guess one of them's just in the rain. You just want all speed for the most part there. And then you got the reverses are the same way. Watkins Glen, all the Watkins Glen classes seem to favor speed-ish cars. Speed or momentum, so you'll see a mixture of both of those in there. You can do well with the momentum car here, but you get a little of both. I mean, looking at it here, the S2000, the Integra, but you get the 2000 Cobra up there. So you got a Lotus 11. It's kind of all over the place, but that's momentum and speed. And then you get to the next one here. This starts to favor a little bit more speed than the last one because it's a little more open, but the momentum cars still do well there. I don't know about all. I don't remember where I ended up on this one. Looks like about the same lineup of cars. Speed and momentum cars both seem to do work here, whatever your preference is. Short alt. This starts, you see some grip cars start to come in here, but otherwise still real similar. So all of these are real similar in cars. I tend to use speed-ish cars on here on Watkins Glen. I like the power down the straightaway, so I lean more towards speed for the Watkins Glen tracks. Yas Marina, these to me are all about acceleration. Pretty much all of them. You want cars that accelerate. So you're going to see a lot of the grip cars be real good here. But you will see some people doing well with the muscle car in there, like a GNX, because of just the acceleration that it gets. So you want cars that accelerate really, really well and hold a decent top end because there is a little bit of straightaway there. So you'll see even more so when you get to the Yas North. That leans more towards speed, and so does Yas. So you see the I can't talk. The Prowler doing well there. In that one. So it's hard for me to peg a car on here. So I could go either way. I've used grip cars. I've used speed cars. You can be competitive with a lot of different stuff. And airfield circuit typically is a momentum. So cars that work well on Prague, it's not like pure momentum like a Alps Festival or Stadtplatz, but is right in there with Prague. So a lot of information there. Try to get through it quickly. Try to give you guys a thing. They're not all perfect fits. If you don't know, it's good to kind of look at, at this point in the game, you can look at the leaderboards and see what types of cars do there. And you'll see the same types do well on other types of tracks. And it'll kind of give you a clue as to what type of track it is. But hopefully that helps. It's a lot to go through in one, but it's really setting us up for future build videos. So you understand what I say when I say, hey, this is a momentum car. I built this as a speed car, a grip car, a super speed or oval, or what I did. So anyways, I'm going to end it with that. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.